Hey guys, it's Nurse J, Nurse of the Truth, and I'm on my series still. Did Jesus get crucified and did he resurrect, or did someone else take his place? We now are in the book of John. I'm showing you things from Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John. The contradictions, the silliness, the lies, and what is really the Jewish laws and Roman laws. So you decide. I'm just bringing this information to you. I want you to go and look. I want you to read it. I want you to filter it yourself. Any comments, questions, let me know, and we'll battle this demon out together. Happy Halloween, you guys, the day before, and I'll be seeing you tomorrow as well with more tricks and treats for Halloween Day. Now, let's go to... John chapter 18 really quickly. Excuse me. And this is when they rounded up Jesus. Peter denied him. They took him to the high priest. And let's go to verse 29 in chapter 18. It says, Pilate then went unto them and said, What accusation bring ye against this man? And they answered the Jews and said unto him, If he were not a malefactor, we would not have delivered him up unto thee. Okay, a malefactor can be an evildoer. It can mean an insurrectionist, a robber, which would be called lestis in Greek, like Barabbas. Then said Pilate unto them, Take ye him and judge him according to your law. The Jews therefore said unto Pilate, It is not lawful for us to put any man to death. Well, that's funny because they can put people to death by their laws, by stoning and hanging, if you are a false prophet. Read Deuteronomy. So that's a lie right there. 32. That the saying of Jesus might be fulfilled, which he spake, signifying what death he should die. That's a lie. There's nowhere in the Old Testament that talks about this. Then Pilate entered into the judgment hall again and called Jesus, said unto him, Art thou the king of the Jews? See, people in the first century were wanting to be kings, the messiahs, the Hamashiach, the deliverer of Israel against Rome. Okay, because they were looking for a star prophecy. Go research this information. Then all this is going to make sense once you do. And Jesus answered him, saying, Thou this thing of thyself, or did others tell it thee of me? Okay, so that is a key thing. Did others tell it of me? So they're pegging him as a potential candidate for this king of Israel. Pilate answered, Am I a Jew? Thine own nation and the chief priest have delivered thee unto me. What hast thou done? Jesus said, My kingdom is not of this world. If my kingdom were of this world, then my servants fight that I should not be delivered to the Jews. But now is my kingdom not from thence. This is Gnosticism. Okay? This particular verse. Gnosticism, it was a knowledge of cosmic issues, of the principalities of the light and dark, angelic demon realms. The king that was supposed to reside in Israel was supposed to rule on earth. Okay, so there's a lot of problems here. So Jesus is saying, I'm not of this, my kingdom is not of this world. So he's an extraterrestrial? Whatever. So Pilate therefore said unto him, Art thou a king then? Jesus answered, Thou sayest that I am a king. To this end was I born, and for this cause came I into the world, that I should bear witness unto the truth. Everyone that is of the truth heareth my voice. That's Gnostic too. Pilate saying unto him, What is truth? And when he had said this, he went out unto the true Jews and saith unto them, I find in him no fault. Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John, Pilate has been adamant about. He has not found any fault in this man. If you read Josephus's books, Pilate was a very, very mean man, hostile, a killer. They ran out of wood for so many crucifixions. They were crucifying over 500 people a day because it was a hotbed of insurrectionists. And these people had to travel to Lebanon to get wood to make the damn crucifixes. So in the Bible, they're trying to make Pilate look sweet and innocent, but really he was a killer. And Josephus only talks about Pilate a couple of times in his Antiquities of the Jews. Are you serious? You're talking about the man that was the prefect for 10 freaking years. And you're only going to talk about him a couple times in your book that's about that thick. And then he had a problem with the Jews about the aqueduct system, the water systems, and money, but no Jesus. Verse 39, But ye have a custom that I should release unto you one at the Passover. Will ye therefore that I release unto you the King of the Jews? Get your Jewish laws straight. Never in this crappy holiday they have, or a custom, they never release anybody. And why in the hell would they want a robber and an insurrectionist? Then cried they all again, saying, Not this man, talking about Jesus, but Barabbas. Now Barabbas was a robber. A robber? So you're thinking, oh, he robbed people? Well, yeah, you can kind of say that in a way, because in the first century, the Roman Jew wars, the actual Jews were robbing other Jews. But if you go look at this word in the actual sense of the Greek and Latin, especially the Greek, because see, the Bible is written in Koine Greek. A robber called a lestus, L-E-S-T-S, was an insurrectionist, a rebel. Chapter 19. Then Pilate therefore took Jesus and scourged him, whipped him. Okay, so he found no fault in him at all, but he's going to whip him. Just like he said in the other verses. I see no fault in him, I'm just going to whip him and let him go. Go look at my other videos, starting with the resurrection hoax. And the soldiers plaited a crown of thorns and put it on his head, and they put on him a purple robe. And said, Hail, King of the Jews! And they smote him with their hands. And Pilate therefore went forth again, and saith unto them, Behold, I bring him forth to you, that ye may know that I find no fault in him. I find no fault in him. I told you that. I whipped him. I'm bringing him back to you, and I find no fault. You see, in the other scriptures, the Herod and Pilate sent him to Herod. Herod sent him back to Pilate. Herod didn't find no fault. He's just a wandering sage doing magic tricks, right? And Pilate said, he's not, this cat, he's cool, hell, we're all worshiping all kinds of gods. Verse 5, Then came Jesus forth wearing the crown of thorns and the purple robe, and Pilate saith unto them, Behold the man. This is funny. Behold the man. What man? Behold the man? Well, it's supposed to be Jesus. Behold the man. Why are you going to say, behold the man? Okay. When the chief priests, therefore, and officers saw him, they cried out, saying, Crucify him, crucify him. Pilate saith unto them, Take ye him, and crucify him, for I find no fault in him. That is a double standard. First of all, the Jews in 18 verse 31 says, It is not lawful for us to put any man to death. Which that's a lie, because that's in Deuteronomy. But Pilate saying to them, Take ye him and crucify him, for I find no fault in him. Now, why in the hell is Pilate saying in all of the scriptures, I find no fault in him? But in John, he says, Oh, I have no fault in him, but crucify him. What? Jews did not crucify. Romans crucified. Jews stoned and hanged and buried less than 24 hours. The Jews answered him, We have a law, and by our law he ought to die, because he made himself the Son of God. But they just said in 31, it is not lawful for us to put any man to death. But then they said, we have a law, and by our law he ought to die because he made himself. See, this shit is so... You can find so many loopholes in this. Lies and loopholes. L&L. No, I should make a video called LL&L. Lies, loopholes, and laughs. When Pilate therefore heard that saying, he was the more afraid, and went again into the judgment hall, and saith unto Jesus, Whence art thou? But Jesus gave him no answer, meaning, Who are you? Then saith Pilate unto him, Speakest thou not unto me? Knowest thou not that I have power to crucify thee, and have power to release thee? So, I have the power to crucify you, and I have the power to release you. Tell me who you are. And Jesus answered, Thou couldst have no power at all against me, except it were given thee from above. That's Gnostic too. And from thenceforth Pilate sought to release him, but the Jews cried out, saying, If thou let this man go, thou art not Caesar's friend. Whosoever maketh himself a king speaketh against Caesar. So there we go again. Pilate is like, sought to release him. Do you think by any stretch of the imagination Pilate is going to listen to Jews? Shit. Read history. Pilate was killing people like crazy. He didn't give a damn. Do you think he was asking what truth was? Think about it, guys. Get the history on Pilate. When Pilate therefore heard that saying, he brought Jesus forth and sat down in the judgment seat in a place that is called the pavement, but in Hebrew, Gabbatha. And it was preparation of the Passover, and about the 6th hour, and he saith unto the Jews, Behold your king. And they cried out, Away with him, crucify, crucify. And Pilate saith unto them, Shall I crucify your king? The chief priest answers, We have no king but Caesar. Then delivered he him therefore unto them to be crucified, and they took Jesus and led him away. Okay. So the Romans then delivered he him therefore unto them, the Jews, to be crucified. Like I said, Jews did not crucify people. So that's a lie. And they took Jesus and led him away. And he bearing his cross, went forth into a place called the place of the skull, which is called in Hebrew Golgotha, where they crucified him and 2 other with him on each side, and Jesus in the midst. And Pilate wrote a title and put it on the cross, and writing with Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews. This title then read many of the Jews, for the place where Jesus was crucified was nigh to the city, and was written in Hebrew, Greek, and Latin. So they had an issue with Pilate writing this, and Pilate says, What I have written, I have written. Then the soldiers, when they had crucified Jesus, took his garments and made 4 parts, and every soldier a part, and also his coat. Now the coat was without seam, woven from the top throughout. Okay. So in John, we don't have okay. In verse 29, now there was a set of vessel full of vinegar, and they filled a sponge with vinegar and put it upon hyssop and put it into his mouth. If you go look up the word hyssop, hyssop was a medicinal medication that they used in the 1st century. It was like an antiseptic. It was like a how can I put this? Kind of like whiskey, kind of like a numbing pain. Like if when you have a lot of alcohol, you don't feel pain. That's what hyssop is. When Jesus therefore had received the vinegar, and all of the other 3 gospels, remember, this Jesus or the Simon of Cyrene didn't take it, right? Didn't get his mouth, he didn't take it, he moved his head. But in this one it says, when Jesus therefore had received the vinegar, he said, It is finished, and he bowed his head and gave up the ghost. They didn't break his legs. He was dead, supposedly. They pierced his side. And this is when the Joseph of Arimathea comes in 38 and takes his body. Pilate couldn't believe that he was already dead, because usually it takes 2 to 3 days before you die on the cross. And they would let the birds and vultures eat you, and then when all the meat was off the bone, they just threw you in a ditch. There was no proper burial. Now, let's get into this. Uh-oh, Well, time's up. I've got to go get my little girl. So I'm going to do another video. Hotep and Ashe. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.